destroyed. He goes to find Wolverine, thinking Logan might still be alive because of his healing powers. But when Deadpool digs him up, he only finds Wolverine's remains. Angry, he beats them with a shovel and curses because Logan was his last hope. Later, Deadpool calms down and talks to Logan's skeleton. Soon, TVA agents show up to arrest him for messing with the timeline. Deadpool grabs Wolverine's adamantium bones and uses them to fight the agents. He beats all of them and kicks Wolverine's skull away. More agents come through portals and Deadpool decides to keep fighting to get rid of them. He ties Wolverine's claws to his wrists and uses them as weapons to defeat the rest of the agents. Next we go back a few months. Wade wanted to join the Avengers after his life as Deadpool because he wanted to live a good life to win back his girlfriend Vanessa. His biggest fear was losing her. However, Happy, Tony Stark's former driver and now an Avengers worker, says he can't join the team because Wade's reasons are selfish. 6 months after being rejected, Wade starts over and works at a dealership with Peter, one of the few who knows he's Deadpool. On Wade's birthday, Peter takes him home where he finds a surprise party waiting. Wade enjoys the time with his friends, including Vanessa, now his ex. Even though he's not over their breakup, Wade is happy to be with Vanessa and his friends, as it's one of the rare times he's surrounded by people he loves. After blowing out the candles and making his wish, Wade hears someone knocking on the door. He goes to answer it and meets TVA agents. Before he can ask any questions, one of the agents rips off his wig while the other drags him into a portal, taking him against his will to the TVA headquarters. There, Wade meets Paradox, who explains that all the TVA employees are responsible for protecting the sacred timeline. Paradox reveals that Wade was chosen for a great purpose. If he works for him, he can finally join the Avengers in the future. Hearing this, the anti-hero immediately accepts the deal and rushes to the tailor's room to get a new uniform. Before starting the mission, Wade asks Paradox to send him back home to share the news with his friends. At this moment, he discovers the truth. By making the deal with the TVA, Deadpool can never return home because his universe will be reset in 72 hours, and all the people he loves will cease to exist. Paradox explains that when a universe loses its anchor, it starts to disintegrate. In Wade's universe, the anchor was Wolverine, who sacrificed himself to save a group of mutant children, including his daughter Laura. Instead of waiting for the universe's natural death, which would occur in a few thousand years, Paradox decided to build a machine to destroy it all at once. Paradox offers Wade two options: join the sacred timeline and fulfill his dream of being part of the Avengers, or be destroyed along with his friends. Deadpool chooses a third option. After striking Paradox, he steals the temp pad to open a portal back home. Believing Wolverine might still be alive, Wade digs him up but confirms the death of the only man who could save his world. After eliminating all the TVA agents sent to capture him, Deadpool decides to embark on a journey to find another Logan and convince him to help save his friends. Traveling through different parallel universes, Deadpool encounters several versions of Wolverine and tries to convince one of them to help. However, all the Logans he meets try to eliminate him, including one who looks a lot like Henry Cavill. After being pierced dozens of times by adamantium claws, Deadpool finally finds an alcoholic version of Wolverine, who also refuses to help. Knowing his options are running out, Wade takes him to the TVA headquarters and tries to convince Paradox to replace the old Wolverine with a new one. However, Paradox states that this substitution cannot be made. Wade insists on speaking to whoever is in charge, and discovers that Paradox intends to carry out the operation without his boss's consent. To avoid losing his position, Paradox decides to reset Deadpool and then do the same with Wolverine before he causes any trouble. When Deadpool encounters Wolverine, Logan vents all his fury as he was taken from his universe against his will and is now trapped in an unknown place. Wade retaliates and unloads his pistol cartridges into Wolverine's ribs. The fight continues, and Wolverine uses his claws to destroy Deadpool's weapons, who then uses his swords to block the blows. During the duel, Wolverine is hit several times, and Deadpool's swords remain stuck in his body. Now that his rival is more vulnerable, Logan prepares to rip off Deadpool's head. However, Deadpool manages to convince him to join him, even without knowing Wolverine's past. Wade imagines that Wolverine must have suffered a great loss to be so bitter, and promises that if the mutant helps him return to the TVA headquarters, he will convince Paradox to fix his universe. The conversation is interrupted by Captain America, who informs them that the real enemies are approaching. Seeing one of his favorite superheroes right in front of him, Deadpool gets emotional. However, when Chris Evans starts catching fire, Deadpool realizes it is actually Johnny Storm from the Fantastic Four. When the Human Torch uses his powers to try to eliminate the enemies, Pyro manages to block the attack and absorb all the fire. After losing his powers, Johnny falls to the ground, and Sabretooth appears to attack his brother. When the duel is about to begin, Deadpool removes the sword stuck in Wolverine's body, believing it will be an epic battle. However, as soon as the fight starts, Logan makes the first attack and rips off his opponent's head. Realizing he won't be able to capture the two, Pyro decides to use a giant magnet to imprison Wolverine, and Deadpool ends up getting stuck as well. Both are tied up inside a cell with Johnny and taken to Cassandra Nova's hideout, the twin sister of Professor Charles Xavier. Upon meeting Cassandra, Deadpool recounts all the terrible things Johnny said about her during the trip. Cassandra decides to eliminate Johnny and explains that she was sent to that place before she even learned to walk, and her brother never looked for her. Hearing Cassandra speak ill of his deceased friend, Wolverine tries to attack her but ends up having his body sunk into the ground. Cassandra then invades Wade's mind to investigate his greatest vulnerabilities and discovers that he was recently rejected by the person he loved most. When Cassandra exits his mind, Deadpool distracts her so Wolverine can stab her with his claws. To their surprise, Cassandra easily escapes the attack and summons Allo to devour them. Seeing the purple cloud approaching, Wolverine and Deadpool hitch a ride on a flying device and manage to escape. Their next mission is to find a way to return to the TVA and capture Paradox to force him to fix both universes. However, before starting this plan, the duo decides to take a break. They find an abandoned diner in the middle of the desert. While eating, Deadpool comments that in his world, Logan is adored by many fans. Hearing this, Wolverine reveals that in his universe, he is hated by everyone because he made an unforgivable mistake. After a brief rest, the two allies decide to continue their journey to the border because before dying, Johnny said that was the only way out of that world. During the walk, Wolverine asks what happened to his other version, and Deadpool reveals that Logan died trying to save a girl who, like him, was created in a laboratory. The young woman, named Laura and known by the codename X-23, was considered a daughter by Wolverine. He sacrificed himself so she could be free. Suddenly, while the duo is walking through the desert, Deadpool sees a dog running toward him and is charmed by the animal. Without thinking twice, Wade decides to adopt him but soon discovers that the dog, named Dogpool, already has an owner. At this moment, Nicepool appears to retrieve his dog. Wolverine asks which way the border is, and Nicepool, trying to help the strangers get back home, decides to lend his car so they can get there faster. Before leaving, albeit reluctantly, Wade returns Dogpool to his rightful owner and gets into the car to continue the journey. During the journey, Deadpool asks Wolverine what he would like to change if the TVA agents could alter the past. Upon hearing this, Logan realizes he has been deceived, as his partner convinced him to help under false promises. Unsure if his universe can really be altered, the mutant abruptly breaks the vehicle and attacks Deadpool, furious for being tricked. Since being removed from his world against his will, Wolverine believed he could fix a great mistake from the past and bring his friends back. Now knowing it is all an illusion, he vents his frustration on Wade. At that moment, Deadpool and Wolverine start fighting inside the car. Deadpool tries to cut him with his sword but is repeatedly pierced by Logan's claws. During the battle, they destroy the entire vehicle and splatter blood everywhere. Since both can heal instantly, the fight lasts the whole night. In the morning, they are found unconscious by another variant sent to that world. A few minutes after the rescue, Deadpool wakes up and sees Logan drinking a bottle of whiskey. Suddenly, Wade hears a noise and prepares to attack but is surprised by the arrival of Elektra, who easily knocks him down. Then Blade the Vampire Hunter and Gambit appear along with Laura. The young woman reveals that she found them in the desert and decided to take them to the hideout because she recognized Wolverine. Before being captured by the TVA, Laura underwent a similar experiment to Logan, having several liters of adamantium injected into her body. Thanks to Wolverine, X-23 survived, and even knowing that he is not the same Logan who saved her, she decided to repay the favor. Upon meeting the team, Deadpool asks how they got there, and Elektra reveals that all their universes were reset. Knowing that these mutants would never accept the destruction of their world without a fight, the TVA decided to send them to the Void to prevent them from causing problems. Hearing this story, Wade decides to join the team and learns that they were friends of Johnny. At that moment, Wolverine reveals that because of Deadpool, the Human Torch was eliminated by Cassandra. However, Wade manages to turn the situation around and convinces the mutants to help him defeat Cassandra, the sister of Professor Xavier. The only way to stop the enemy is by blocking her powers with Magneto's helmet, but Cassandra destroyed it after eliminating the mutant. While telling the sad story of how they lost the most experienced member of the team, Elektra remembers that Juggernaut's helmet can also block Cassandra's powers. The only problem is that Juggernaut works for her. Deadpool devises a plan to steal the helmet and convinces everyone to join him except Wolverine. That night, while drinking whiskey by a campfire, Logan receives a visit from Laura. The young woman states that he reminds her a lot of her father despite all his flaws, and says that her father was always there when she needed him. Hearing this, Logan admits he wasn't there to help the X-Men when his team needed him most. Instead of staying at the mansion with his family, Wolverine decided to follow his own path. One day, humans invaded the house and eliminated all the mutants. Hours later, Logan came back drunk from a bar and found the bodies of his friends. Since then, he has never been able to forgive himself for not being there to protect them. After hearing this sad story, Laura states that she will accompany them to Cassandra's hideout in the morning, and asks Wolverine to support them in this fight. At dawn, the team gets in the car and drives to the mutants' hideout. As they approach the fortress, Blade uses a bazooka to destroy the gates, and the team invades the enemy base. Everyone thought Wolverine wouldn't support them in the battle, but he emerges from the trunk, and his allies feel more confident seeing him. Knowing they probably won't make it out alive, all team members give their best so that Deadpool and Wolverine have a chance to get close to Cassandra. Upon seeing them, the woman claims to be surprised they returned, and demonstrates her superiority by easily immobilizing them without touching them. Then she invades Logan's mind and discovers the pain he carries for disappointing all the people he loved. After finding the bodies of his friends piled up at the mansion, Wolverine became a bitter person and started eliminating humans in the hope of reducing his pain. Meanwhile, Laura faces Juggernaut in a duel and after defeating him, manages to steal his helmet. She climbs the tower to deliver the artifact to Wolverine, but is pulled back down and needs to throw her backpack into the room. Deadpool grabs the helmet and manages to trap Cassandra as the woman was vulnerable while invading Logan's mind. While the duo decides what to do with her, Pyro appears and starts shooting at his boss. At this moment, he is struck by Wolverine, who starts arguing with Deadpool about Cassandra's fate. If the helmet is not removed, she will die soon, so Logan decides to remove it to save her, even knowing that the woman might eliminate him shortly after. Despite wanting to kill her, Wolverine knows that this is not what Xavier would want him to do and decides to spare Cassandra's life. As a thank you, Cassandra decides to help them return home and uses a ring she stole from one of the versions of Doctor Strange to open a portal back to Earth 1.5, where Wade lives. At that moment, the cloud approaches, and Cassandra warns that the duo has only 4 seconds to leave the void before being devoured by it. Hearing this, Deadpool and Wolverine run and cross the portal while their friends continue the battle against the mutants. Cassandra then starts interrogating Pyro to find out why he tried to kill her. She discovers that he is an infiltrated agent working for Paradox, ordered to eliminate her. Learning that Deadpool and Wolverine have returned to Washington, Paradox decides to go after them but is surprised by Cassandra's arrival. The mutant invades her enemy's mind and discovers that he is building a machine to annihilate that universe. Suddenly, she expels Deadpool and Wolverine violently to continue exploring Paradox's mind. Then, she decides to use this machine to destroy him out of it, and picking him up, Wade sees Nicepool running towards him. Shortly after, an enormous army of Deadpools from all existing versions crosses the portal. Confronted by this gang of mercenaries, Wade tries to convince them to join him, but instead the group starts shooting. Deadpool uses Nicepool's body as a shield and after managing to hide behind a vehicle, realizes that his doppelganger cannot regenerate and says he will take him to the hospital. However, to get to the corner, the mercenary needs to cross the army of clones and once again uses Nicepool's body as a shield. As a result, his hairy version has his brains blown out. Wade steals the gold-plated pistols that belong to Nicepool and joins Wolverine to eliminate the enemy army. Together, they start a war against dozens of mercenaries and advance on the battlefield. As they defeat the enemies, they see some hiding inside a bus. The duo does not hesitate to enter the vehicle to eliminate them, successfully finishing them all. The bad news is that after the battle, the Deadpools get up, ready for another round. Since unlike Nicepool, all of them can regenerate. When a new war is about to begin, Peter arrives on the battlefield and manages to establish peace, since he is loved by all the Deadpools. While the gang celebrates Peter's arrival, Wade and Logan run to the subway and discover that Cassandra has already started using the machine. According to Paradox, the only way to stop the villain from destroying all alternative realities is by causing a short circuit in the device, which is powered by sources of matter and antimatter. To destroy the machine, it will be necessary to create a connection between the sources, but the person serving as the bridge will be completely incinerated. Despite knowing the great risk, Deadpool and Wolverine decide to continue the mission. Logan states that he will go alone from here on, but Wade believes Logan deserves a fresh start and attacks him with a fire extinguisher to push him out of the chamber. After locking the doors, Deadpool destroys one of the sources and tries to pull the power cables to connect them to the other side, but he cannot stretch far enough to reach the antimatter source. When all seemed lost, Wolverine manages to break down the door and grabs Wade's hand. At that moment, the duo uses their bodies as a bridge for energy transfer between the sources, causing a massive short circuit in the time rip. Meanwhile, their bodies are burned from the inside out, but they manage to withstand it as they share the energy overload with the machine's explosion. Cassandra's body is instantly pulverized, and Earth 105 narrowly escapes imminent destruction. At that moment, Commander B-15 shows up and asks Paradox about using the Time Ripper without permission. Paradox says Cassandra forced him to build the machine and invaded his mind to learn how to use it. He explains that when he realized reality would be destroyed, he asked Deadpool and Wolverine to fix the problem, and they sacrificed themselves to save the universe. What Paradox didn't expect was that Deadpool and Wolverine survived the explosion and came back to prove his story was false. Because of their teamwork, they survived. After learning the truth, B-15 tells her guards to take Paradox to the TVA headquarters, where he will be judged. After the Time Ripper was destroyed, the commander checks that the universe is healing and congratulates Wade and Logan on their great work. Even though Wolverine doesn't belong to that timeline, B-15 lets him stay there to rebuild his life. Seeing the commander in a generous mood, Deadpool asks for help to rescue his friends who were trapped in the void. Without them, none of this would have been possible. After saving the world, Deadpool and Wolverine decide to go out for a meal, and Wade reunites